ain't gonna make the tournament, and Miami was the 4th overall seed in the ACC, and they're gonna be the last 4 in.
It's crazy to me, just because, yeah. Well, and I think that's a key talking point is how does the committee look at ACC? How do they look at Big Ten? That'll be important. All right. Exactly. Okay, wonderful. We're on the YouTube. We are live, folks. A few minutes here before Selection Sunday begins. Indiana did what they had to do in Indianapolis. General consensus that the Hoosiers will be announced in the field here in the next 3 to 63 minutes. We don't know exactly when it's going to come through. Matt, you saw IU beat Illinois on Friday since our last podcast. Crushing buzzer beater loss on Saturday to Iowa. Clearly, the Hawkeyes are pretty damn good winning the Big Ten tournament. Your initial thoughts before the party begins in 3 minutes.
IU did what we were supposed to do. We lost on a fluky buzzer beater to the team that ended up winning the tournament. And by the way, we put up a much better performance against Iowa than Purdue did. We were able to score more efficiently against Iowa's defense than Purdue was able to, surprisingly. We played better defense, I thought, against Iowa, and they just hit some tough shots like they did to win the game. And you know what? That happens in college basketball. Sometimes those things break your way. Sometimes they don't. We saw that against Illinois and against Michigan. They broke our way. Third time's the charm. We got hit in the, finally got hit with the 50-50 and lost the game. It is what it is. And you know what? I was mad about the loss yesterday. I'm not going to lie. I was a little disappointed. I was mad. I've seen part of the fan base talking about, oh, we could have hit a couple open threes. Well, yes, that is damn correct. And I said that on Ant Wright's. I was live on Green Room with Ant Wright last night talking about our game. And I was saying we would have won that if we hit like 1 or 2 more threes. Yeah. But you know what? I'm riding with this team. I love this team. This team is fun to watch, even though they give me a damn heart attack every time. And going into next year, I'm super excited. So, of course, we'll see what, speculation going into what's happening next year. But look, the goal for season 1 of the Mike Woodson era was to make the tournament.
Get picked right here on this show, right?
Get picked. If what we think will happen here in the next
hour,
minute to an hour, where IU will be picked, Mike Woodson will have accomplished something that Archie Miller did not do, Tom Crane did not do in his last year, and something that Hoosier fans have been dying to have happen to this program since 2016, right? So
seriously,
I think we can call the hire a success. The momentum's back in the program. I was on the pod again, Green Room last night with Ant Wright, and they were literally gushing over Jalen Hood-Schifino last night for like a good 15 minutes. It's not recorded, so you can't go back and listen to it, but I would highly recommend following Ant, because I'm probably being there again. They'll probably do the same thing, but they spent probably a good 10 to 15 minutes last night talking about how good he's going to be in the Big Ten and how he's going to be such a fantastic player and how Mike Woodson's got things rolling. So it's not just the IU people that are optimistic about IU. It's people who are plugged in and really following what is happening in and around the Big Ten and college basketball in general. I can't believe that if you had told me this would have happened when we lost the 5 games in a row, I think I angrily tweeted at some point in that 5-game run, we're never winning another basketball game again. And I seriously said what I felt, but I'm so happy for the guys that finally their hard work paid off with the 2 wins.
100%. That's the one thing you could always say about this team. They were committed, they were bought in, they were engaged. Some of the executional stuff wasn't always there, but if there was a team that could turn it around, in order to turn it around, you need to be 100% all in. And everyone on this team was since that Northwestern thing. The Selection Sunday show is underway, folks. Things we're looking out for, which bubble teams get in. There's a long list of them. It looks like the biggest question after Richmond's bid steal earlier today is which bubble team gets left out And because Richmond automatically gets into the Thursday, Friday portion of the tournament, does Indiana get bumped down into a first four spot? They just announced Gonzaga as the number 1 overall seed. Georgia State is who they're facing in the round of 64. So good luck to RJ Hunter's former school when they knocked off Baylor a few years ago. Looks like the first few sites here are in Portland. Boise State gets in as an at-large. No, excuse me. They won the Mountain West tournament, but they have been a great team all year. They're seated one line lower than I would have expected. Matt, you and I were talking about Boise State earlier as a possible
a
7. They're an 8. They're an 8. Oh. So maybe the Mountain West doesn't look as positive in the committee's eyes as we're going through this. I see Forrest comment in the last chat, the Hoosiers are dangerous. Absolutely true. They're playing as well as anyone in the conference right now.
You don't got to tell us that. You don't got to tell us that. We know that.
100%.
Memphis is in the tournament.
They are about to, yes, Memphis, they're about to unveil the first 12. It looks like New Mexico State gets that as an auto bid. So no at-large off the list yet. And we will see here, actually in the next 2 spots, I don't anticipate seeing Indiana show up here in the 4 or the 13. Yeah, Matt, you were talking about Memphis, Penny Hardaway. I mean, Memphis is playing as good as anyone right now.
They are. And that's funny because, Penny went on that rant that the media hates him and everybody in college basketball was making fun of him. I think that was December, January when that happened. Yeah. And they've gone on a tear since then. And look, that's a very winnable game against Boise State. Move on to lose to Gonzaga.
All right. First potential spot for Indiana here. The first 11 seed is being unveiled. The 6 is Alabama. I wanted to avoid Alabama. We'll see. It is not Indiana. So Rutgers and Notre Dame have made the field as the first 4 in. Rutgers is playing Notre Dame.
That's big news for IU. That's big news for IU. Those are
why do you say that? Tell me why.
Well, IU has a loss against Rutgers at home on a buzzer beater very recently. And so the fact that they made the tournament, that's not a bad loss. And the second thing is IU has a neutral court victory over Notre Dame. I'll repeat that again, a neutral court victory over Notre Dame. Those are very important. And that's why we're so excited about the Michigan and Illinois victories. It wasn't just that we beat Michigan and Illinois because we needed to beat both those teams. It was the neutral court aspect. Those get weighted more than a home or an away win might.
So we love Delphi bracketology. They had Notre Dame out of the field pretty comfortably. They were the 3rd team out in Delphi's field. So big curveball there. Just see that Michigan State got in as a 7 seed in this portion of the bracket. I don't expect Indiana to get bumped up to a 10. They won't be able to play Michigan State here. So it's not even in the conversation if I understand my rules correctly. Right. I am stunned at Rutgers Notre Dame. By the way, MSU gets Davidson in the 7-10 matchup. That'll be a fun game on Friday. I'm leaning Davidson already without digging into it too much. Rutgers Notre Dame, I am stunned that both teams made it in the field, Matt. I am floored. I cannot wait to see which teams miss out.
Looks
when
like
I'm sitting here,
Wake Forest, maybe.
I think Wake Forest is in trouble. I think who else am I looking at here? Wyoming is in trouble. I think A&M might be in trouble after the way they lost today. I know recency bias will make you think A&M is a candidate to get through, but it's a little concerning. I do agree with your point there as far as Indiana's opponents getting looked at favorably. So as I sit here and see Rutgers, Notre Dame, that I think is a good sign for Indiana. But again, 2 of those big time bubble spots now eliminated. Rutgers inclusion does make me feel better about the Big Ten overall. I also like seeing Michigan State as a 7. So initially I'm leaning towards the Big Ten is getting looked at favorably by the committee.
Yeah, Big Ten's looking favorably. Big Ten's looking favorably by the committee. And also, I'd like to just point out, I'm already looking at this as my bracket because, I get sweaty in this. That potential, I see UConn probably moving on past New Mexico State and then beating Arkansas there. I think Arkansas actually doesn't even win that matchup. I think Vermont beats them. Vermont's a very good program that could definitely pull off that upset there. And then you're looking at that Gonzaga team. I think this is Gonzaga's bracket to win, honestly. I think the only team that can possibly beat them is that UConn team. I don't believe in Duke. I don't believe in Alabama. I don't believe in Texas Tech. So this West region is really Gonzaga's to win. The committee did a good job for Gonzaga to give them a very winnable side of the bracket towards the Final Four.
Yeah, I do believe the TV folks here are going to give it a minute here. The West region has been unveiled, the first region in this field. I am intrigued by the Michigan State Davidson match. I know I just mentioned that. And yeah, the TV is going to a break here, so we have a couple minutes. The interesting piece of that is that Davidson has a Michigan State transfer on their team, Foster Lawyer, who's a pretty big piece of what Davidson does on offense. So that'll be pretty fascinating to track. Alabama, I tell you, that's one of the weirdest teams in the country. Matt, you and I talked about Nate Oates a lot last year in the coaching search for Indiana. He didn't really get anywhere, but Nate Oates would have been someone I would have been very interested in if Indiana went away from Mike Woodson. I don't like either Rutgers or Notre Dame, so I think Alabama is going to have a pretty easy walk to the round of 32. Yeah. And that sets up a really great matchup if you ask me. Alabama, Texas Tech. That's one that I'm going to have circled next Saturday out in San Diego. But otherwise, the Rutgers Notre Dame thing, I'm just still coming back to that for Indiana purposes. I don't think there's much to be concerned about for Hoosier Nation as far as, look, they're not going to be in the first four, it looks like. Of course, Michigan fans are going to be biting their nails here. Of course, Xavier fans, Wyoming, SMU, all these fan bases right now are going to be biting their fingernails. I'm curious to hear what the committee does with North Texas. That's a team that won a lot of games in a mid-major conference, but lost in their conference tournament. Do they slide in? Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Rutgers, all in the conversation. Oklahoma in the conversation. Yeah. Miami, do they get left out? I don't know. What are your thoughts here, Matt, as far as Indiana's selection is concerned? Did anything change as far as the needle after the West region was announced?
Yeah, it did. Two opponents, actually three opponents being weighted higher than I thought they would be. Michigan State getting a 7 seed, especially after Michigan State's recent performances and recent times, almost losing to Maryland in the Big Ten tournament. I really thought that they were going to be like an 8 or a 9 seeds. Getting a 7, they're up a little bit higher. So maybe the committee's actually weighting the Big Ten a little bit stronger than I thought they might going into the day, which is a really good sign for Indiana. And that's probably why we've seen a lot of people put them on a 10 line, we literally played ourselves off the bubble into a decent seed. So I anytime an 11, a 10 or 12 comes up, we're going to be looking really closely at who they're picking because Indiana's in that group of 12 teams.
Absolutely. That's a good point here. By the way, if you're curious, if Indiana gets one of the other first 4 spots and you sort of cross-check that with the analytics, a team like Michigan would be a tough matchup for IU if it comes down to that.
How does that work? Can we play another conference opponent in the first 4?
I'm under the impression that you can. So we'll see how that plays out. Also, the TV coverage is back on. Arizona gets a 1 seed. No surprise there. I'll take a second here and catch which region they're announcing. It's not too important in the grand scheme of things. But otherwise, if you're really looking into the round of 64, I have my eyes on St. Mary's or LSU, perhaps USC.
I want LSU so bad. Again, they just lost their head coach, right? Will Wade. And that's going to be a program in turmoil going into March. I would not mind a sort of give me game to start March Madness.
Anyway, so they're listing off the teams here in San Diego. The 8-9 matchup will be unveiled here in just a second. It's the South region. Arizona got the 1. We'll see how the 8-9. I don't anticipate Indiana's name will get called on the 8 or the 9 seed lines here. That would be shocking to me, but we'll see how the committee maybe looks at the ACC, maybe looks at the Big Ten, a couple of conferences that have been a little shaky this year. Seton Hall out of the Big East gets the 8. So that's an interesting matchup there. Arizona should be feeling pretty good about getting Seton Hall. They were projected 8 seed. I just didn't think they caught there as much attention as they usually do this year. We'll see how that works. They almost lost to Georgetown in the Big East tournament, which is never good.
Yeah,
I guess better than actually losing to them.
I thought they were a 6 seed. Some brackets I looked before the tournament started, before the conference tournament. So they obviously took a bit of a bump down recently, given to performances.
TCU gets the 9. Not a stunner there, not by any means. Houston gets the 5 here. Houston gets the 5 in this region. Indiana could slide in here as a 12 as part of the first 4. They could give the 12 seed to an auto bid. It is UAB who
gets the 12.
Got the 12. I'm under the impression UAB is an at-large team. Just a second here.
They might be one of the high mid majors that make it in. Did UAB win their conference tournament?
I thought they lost. UAB conference tournament champ. Yeah, the UAB did win their conference tournament.
Yeah, so they're one of the last auto bids.
They're an auto bid. So Indiana's got nothing to worry about.
Illinois and Pittsburgh. That Illinois-Houston game will be a good matchup, depending on who's the 13 seed. Though UAB could upset Houston. I think Houston's a very upsettable team. Chattanooga from Illinois. That's the team that IU played in the 5-12 matchup the last time we were in the tournament.
It is. You're right. Yeah, Illinois-Houston is a really great matchup as far as the top level. Both teams grade very well in Ken Pom, probably underseeded there. Here's a next opportunity for Indiana. Colorado State gets the 6. I mentioned a minute ago, I want to see Indiana here. This game's in Indianapolis. Do the Hoosiers draw in Indy on Thursday? Oh man, oh no, it's Michigan. So Michigan gets
an
in
11
above the first 4. Michigan gets
That's
in.
Big for IU. Dude, IU's a 10. IU's
Indiana,
a 10 seed.
Michigan gets in above the first 4. They bypass the first 4, get into Indianapolis. That's another surprising thing to me. I'm walking on eggshells just a little bit here, Matt, if I'm a Hoosier fan, just from the fact that you're seeing some of these teams get in. It means they're prioritizing, at least with Michigan, a good non-conference strength of schedule. They're prioritizing the high number of quad 1 wins. Still plenty of teams left to be unveiled. Tennessee is the 3 in this region against Longwood. So we'll see how that plays out here. I am stunned that Michigan gets in as a 11 past the first 4. Now, this is the next spot for Indiana. We're going to analyze this South region here in just a minute here. The 7 seed will be listed off first. This is Ohio State. So Indiana can't be drawn into this spot. Nope. Indiana cannot be drawn into this spot, so we can take a breather here, Matt. Your initial thoughts as you see the South region, kind of surprising, not surprising to see Arizona as the 1. But we see Colorado State and Michigan in the 6-11. We see Ohio State versus Loyola in the 7-10. Your general thoughts here. Indiana does not play their first weekend in Indy. What a break that would have been.
That would have been fantastic. We play well in Indianapolis over the last couple of years. So that would have been a big break for the Hoosiers. However, not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. Michigan, our boy Ant Wright over there, is going to be very happy about their draw. I think Colorado State's very winnable for them. Yeah. And I know you talked about them looking at Michigan's non-conference strength of schedule. And while I agree that might be a point in why they got an 11 seed and out of the first 4, I would like to point out that IU just beat them, and that looks good for IU. So again, don't be worried. We're in the tournament. I think we're out of the first 4. There's only one more opportunity for us to be in the first 4, and I don't think we'll be seeing IU's name called for that event. So again, overarching thoughts on this side of the bracket. Illinois gets a favorable 4 seed. It's pretty good, especially given the fact that they just lost to us, right? Which looks very unfavorable for them. That's a matchup they should have won. Arizona gets a nice path to the Sweet 16, in my opinion. I don't see Seton Hall or TCU being able to upset them, and they're not going to lose to a 16 seed. Yeah. Houston UAB should be one of the best round of 64 games. I think both those teams will go at each other. So will Illinois and Chattanooga. So I think this tournament right now is looking pretty chalk to me. As I'm looking through, Ohio State, Loyola should be a fantastic game.
I have Loyola winning that one.
I think Loyola wins that. and
I think
plays
Loyola's gonna win that
Villanova
game.
in the round of
Yeah.
32. Talk about two of the iconic March Madness Cinderella programs meeting up against each other in the round of 32. That looks like fun. Tennessee is my dark horse to win the whole dang thing. They just won the SEC, who I think is very good at basketball this year. So that South bracket is loaded. And if you guys haven't watched Arizona yet this year, I highly recommend watching one of the tournament games. They have two of the best players in all of college basketball to watch. Is it Krisa, Kerr Krisa,
Kerr Krisa, yeah.
and Mathurin? They're Benedict Mathurin. They are fantastic.
They are a great team to watch. Very enjoyable offense to watch. Very much in the conversation as far as NCAA tournament selection. A championship, by the way, not selection. The champion winning the whole thing. I think they're perfectly capable of running the table. Man, I can't wait to see the first weekend here for some of these Big Ten teams. Right? How does Rutgers do against Notre Dame? And then how do they do in the following match against Alabama? How does Michigan do against Colorado State? How does Michigan State do against Davidson? How does Ohio State do against Loyola? And off the top of my head right now, Matt, I think Big Ten is losing all of those games. That's just how I see this right now. And because, I mean, just look at what we saw over the weekend. The entire Big Ten looks rough. I guess Illinois probably knocks off Chattanooga in the round of 64 before facing Houston, which is a tough draw for Brad Underwood's team. But am I wrong here as far as the hottest teams in the conference right now look like Iowa and Indiana? Everyone else just seems really beatable. I mean, what are your thoughts as far as the top of this league? Teams like Wisconsin and Illinois and Purdue. I mean, what are your thoughts on some of those top three teams?
I think they're very dominant, right? That's why they're the top teams. And yeah, I think March Madness is going to be very top heavy this year. I really do. I think a lot of the high ranked seasons. Normally I'm like, okay, this team's very beatable. Even with some injuries, Arizona looked fantastic. Even with injuries, Gonzaga looks great. So,
absolutely, yeah. I know. And I'm just trying to look at some of sort of the ones and the twos. Yeah, I have a hard time seeing the national champ come outside of the 1 and the 2 seed lines. I mean, I think Gonzaga, Arizona, Baylor. I'm kind of biting my tongue on Baylor a little bit there. I don't really see Kansas or Baylor doing it this year. I can see Kentucky winning it all. I can see Auburn doing it. I have no faith in Duke. My title winning core is probably those 4 teams. I think it's Gonzaga, Arizona, Auburn, and Kentucky. Maybe Tennessee if I dig into their draw a little bit more. Overall, though, that's how I see it. I mean, are there any other teams sort of at the top of the list that you look at and you say, yeah, that's a team that can win it all?
Like I said, I think Tennessee. If you're hopping off the 1 or the 2 line, Tennessee. Trying to think off the top of my head. I think I'll have to look at the rest of the bracket again. Yeah. Like a lot has to do with can Kansas, you even Baylor, get to the Final Four? Kansas, Baylor, sure. I think Baylor lost. Oh my God, I'm gonna butcher his last name. Is it Chico?
Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua. Yeah.
Yes, Tom Chachua. Yeah, they lost him, and I think that. Don't get me wrong, Baylor's got a lot of really good guards, but they needed that one very versatile big to make that system work. They lost him, and so they're going to have a tough time when it comes to maybe the Sweet 16. I think I'd penciled them in until there, and then Sweet 16 Elite 8. They're going to have to play 2 of their best games of the year, and I don't see them being able to do 2 in a row to make the Final Four.
Just a heads up on some at-large teams we're waiting to hear still. Virginia Tech, just kidding. They won the ACC tournament. We're talking about North Carolina, Iowa State. We're still looking out for Miami. We're still looking out for IU, obviously.
Kansas is a 1 seed. That's not a surprise.
Kansas got the 1. We're still waiting to hear Texas A&M's name, Xavier's name, SMU, North Texas.
I think Xavier's
Oklahoma,
out.
Possibly Xavier.
I think Xavier's out with Rutgers and Notre Dame, and I think they miss out.
They're about to announce the 8-9 matchup here. San Diego State gets the 8. That is an at-large team, and Creighton gets the 9. That doesn't surprise me too much. That Creighton team did lose in the Big East title game to Villanova, so no surprise there. They're announcing a 5-12 matchup here, so Iowa gets the 5. I guess it's conceivable if this is a first 4 pairing that Indiana could get announced. I'm not 100% sure about this. Maybe it's an auto bid gets the 12 seed here. These games are in Buffalo, by the way, on Thursday. Richmond gets the 12 as the auto bid. So Richmond won the A10 tournament, knocking a team off the bubble earlier today. Iowa, Richmond, that's a matchup up in Buffalo. Richmond might even have the home court there. It's not that far of a trip. Providence gets the 4 here. I can already tell you I will probably take Iowa over Providence in the round of 32 matchup. I do not like the Friars in any way. Of course, former Hoosier Al Durham, he gets the spot here. So shout out to Al, of course, out of Hoosier Nation. Loved watching him play during his career in Bloomington. South Dakota State gets the 13. I'm probably going to take South Dakota State over Providence in that matchup right there. Can't wait to see how that plays out. It's a Thursday game. That's a really strong 4-team quartet there. Iowa, Richmond, Providence, and the Aztecs. LSU gets the 6. And we talked, Matt, about LSU. I want LSU. This is in Milwaukee on Friday. The 11 will be unveiled here in just a second. Drum roll, please. What do we have here? It is Iowa State. So Iowa State gets the 11. This is not a first 4 spot. Iowa State goes straight through into the round of 64. Iowa State was projected to make the field. Wisconsin gets the 3 in Milwaukee on Friday. So the Badgers' lucky season continues here. They continue to be get all the gifts from God. The tournament committee just loves Wisconsin making it to the Sweet 16. It's crazy. And they also draw LSU. I mean, this is a godsend of a draw for Wisconsin. Like Matt mentioned a few moments ago, LSU fired their coach on Saturday because of NCAA investigations. Wisconsin gets Colgate. Colgate's a team that beat Syracuse earlier this year. They love shooting from 3.
By the way, if we're in Greenville, South Carolina, I will be at the games. I 100% will drive up to South Carolina. I am very much rooting for us to be at the 7th.
This could be a spot here. USC gets the 7. I don't think USC is a great team. Greenville, South Carolina, the 10's about to be unveiled. Will it be the Hoosiers here? Let's go. Drum roll, please. In the 10 spot against you. No, it's not. It's Miami who gets the 10.
Miami gets the 10 outright.
The 10 in Greenville against USC. The Hurricanes were on the bubble here. They were expected to get in. So interesting to see, though, that they were not one of the last 4 into the field. They bypassed the first 4. The 2 seed in this region is Auburn. I'm sure they'll have a good fan base in Greenville on that Friday-Sunday combo. USC and Miami playing each other. LSU, Iowa State playing each other. Wisconsin, Colgate up in Milwaukee. Greenville, South Carolina, about to rattle off here the 50, not the end of the world here. We can jump right into what your thoughts are, Matt. Miami gets the 10. The ACC looking pretty positively right there. Again, lots of bubble teams still awaiting their name to be called. I believe Davidson is yet to be mentioned. They lost today in the A10 final. Everyone expected them to be announced in the field. We'll see if they get their name called out. Delphi Bracketology has them as an 11, so we'll see what happens there. Xavier, A&M, Wake Forest, Wyoming, SMU, Indiana. What are your thoughts here, Matt, as far as the Midwest region, which was just unveiled?
I don't know. I can't think. I'm nervous. I want IU to be in really badly. I don't want us to be in the first 4 matchup. So again, this is nervy now, right? This is nerve time for Indiana fans. There's one more region left for us to be in. Surely we're in the tournament. I don't see how the committee kind of screws us out of this.
Well, I can tell you how. So how is the non-conference strength of schedule isn't good enough?
Yeah, but we still beat people in our conference.
Absolutely.
And our conference is highly ranked.
Non-conference strength of schedule isn't strong enough. The quad 1 wins aren't there. Indiana only has 5, Rutgers is 6, Michigan has more than that. That would be the story. I still strongly think Indiana gets in. And perhaps, if we believe the conspiracy theories, maybe they're just, holding a minute here to let Indiana fans stress out.
No,
They don't necessarily have to get Indiana out of the way right away. So it's kind of funny how that worked out. Yeah, I see a tweet here from Jeff Borzello as far as a lot of elite defenses in the Midwest region that was just announced with San Diego State and with LSU. As far as Indiana's concerned, if they do get into the first 4, I'm not all that concerned about their matchup. I thought the worst team that could have drawn in a first 4 scenario was Michigan. And so that's not a problem.
I would like to interrupt to say we are definitely in the tournament because Kentucky hasn't been selected yet. So the committee is going to put Kentucky on that 2 seed line, and Indiana is going to be or the 3 seed line, and Indiana is going to be in the 7-10 matchup. That's going to happen. That's going to happen.
The 2 seed, right? The 2 seed in the 7-10.
Kentucky is going to be the 2 seed in this side of the bracket, and that IU is going to be the 10 seed on this side of the bracket, setting up for a possible Indiana-Kentucky round of 32. You know how the committee works. This is not crazy. We've seen this before.
Of course.
They like to sell tickets, ladies and gentlemen. They do.
So that would be pretty funny. As far as I consider this now, if you're looking at, if Indiana's an 11, I would not like IU shot in a matchup against the 6 seed in Texas, if that's how things fall into place there. If Indiana's a 10, it's kind of hard to see right now what the available matchups would be as far as the 7 seed line is concerned, because man, as we were preparing for this, we were thinking about USC, we were thinking about San Diego State, we're thinking about Boise State. All those teams have been rattled off at this point. So I'm curious to see who the potential 7 would be in this scenario. I'm trying to look at maybe a Murray State. Indiana could get Murray State potentially in a 10 versus 7. Murray State could get the auto bid into the 7 spot. Indiana could be the 10. Perhaps that's the 10 versus 7 matchup for the Hoosiers. We haven't heard UConn's name, I don't believe. I could be wrong, but I don't believe we've heard UConn's name. Indiana could get that in the 12-5 matchup. So plenty of possibilities here for the Hoosiers. This side of the
bracket is going to have Baylor, Kentucky, Purdue, UCLA, and possibly Indiana. You talk about big brands. Kentucky, Purdue, UCLA, IU. That's about as big as they come in college basketball.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah, and Baylor is the 1 seed here. So I don't think a program you mentioned in that list. If you did, my bad. If you didn't, that's another quality team in that field. Baylor does get the 1 seed in the East as the coverage resumes. They play in Fort Worth, Texas. That should be, as you just mentioned, a pretty jam-packed region here. Indiana waiting their time. Forrest just asked, has Indiana made it yet? We're waiting for the Hoosiers to get called here. We're waiting here. 8-9 is about to get unveiled. I don't expect Indiana to be in this grouping. I don't want Indiana to be in this grouping because you're playing in Fort Worth. UNC gets the 8. So North Carolina will have to play a road game in the round of 32, basically against Baylor. If they beat the 9 seed in this field, it's conceivable Indiana's a 9. I don't envision it. I don't expect it. It's not. It's Marquette. Yeah, makes complete sense. I did not think Indiana would get the seeding there. And now this is the moment of truth, basically, folks. This is the moment of truth. The first 5 gets unveiled as St. Mary's. So the 12 here, I believe, will be the final 2 first 4 teams that have not been announced yet. St. Mary's gets the 5. The first 4 is about to be unveiled, and Indiana's in the first 4. Indiana gets the first 4 bid against Wyoming. Indiana will play Wyoming in the first 4 in Dayton. That's the matchup here. The winner gets St. Mary's. So Hoosier Nation, IU does get their name called off. Indiana is a 12 playing Wyoming. against St. Mary's. Matt, what are your initial thoughts as far as that matchup is concerned?
Well, y'all better get your butts over to Dayton so that we got a nice home court advantage against Wyoming. And I mean, wow, I can't believe we're below Michigan, who we just beat, and we're below Notre Dame, who we beat earlier this year. And we're below, or in the same category as Rutgers and Notre Dame. I don't get it, but you know what? We're in the tournament. That's all that matters.
Indiana will play in Portland, Oregon on Thursday and Saturday if they win. The interesting aspect of this is IU will face Wyoming on Tuesday. Then they will face St. Mary's with a win on Thursday. And then they'll play the winner of UCLA versus Akron on Saturday. If you ask me, it's not the worst thing that Indiana is in the first four, but given how this past tournament went, I would have liked Indiana to get a couple extra days off, a couple extra days of rest. That's not what happened here. So IU will play in the first four on Tuesday against Wyoming. Fascinating matchup here. We're digging into the details on Wyoming as we go. They ranked 58th in KenPom. They aren't a standout team on either side of the ball. By the way, 4 more teams rattled off here. The 6 versus 11 is Texas, Virginia Tech. The 3 versus 14 is Purdue versus Yale. Those games will be in Milwaukee on Friday. The 7-10 is about to be listed out. These games, the Indianapolis Murray State name just got released. They make it as the 7. I'm curious to hear what the final 10 seed is here before we really dive into the Wyoming Cowboys. Indianapolis, the final, basically this is the final team to get into the tournament. So here we go. CBS is about to unveil the final team to get into the field, and it's USF San Francisco. They were pretty much assumed to get in. So overall, man, as we kind of go through here, Davidson got announced. Okay, so that's what Xavier is out. Texas A&M, they were out.
Wow.
SMU is out. North Texas is out. Oklahoma didn't make it, and that is pretty much the bubbles popped for all of those teams. We will hear from the NCAA selection committee in the back half of this show here. There's still about 25 minutes left in the time slot, what their thoughts were. But let's dig into Wyoming just a little bit, Matt. They come out of the Mountain West Conference where they went 25-8. There are 3 better teams in that league than Wyoming, and those 3 teams are Boise State, San Diego State, and Colorado State. That's fascinating to me. They're 54th in the country as far as offense, 66th on defense. Overall, this is a matchup where Indiana will be a favorite. Indiana will be favored, I would project, by 1 or 2 points. What are your thoughts on how this all played out for Indiana?
I think we got, like us on the 12 line is confusing to me. I think Virginia Tech might have bumped us off the 11 seed line and bumped us into the 12 seed line. I would like to guess that that's what happened. It's just a bit unfortunate. It's really weird that a lot of people thought we were a 10 and then we end up being a 12 along with 3 of our below a lot of the people that we have beaten very recently. But that said, Wyoming, beatable. St. Mary's, very beatable for a 5 seed. And then you look at UCLA Akron, beatable. These are teams that I look at IU playing and I go, at least for the UCLA matchup, 50-50 for me. And for the other matchup, I think it's 60-40 IU favorite. So I like this for IU. I do. I really, really, really do. Even though some people are going to take this as a bit of an ego hit that we got into the first 4. And I will agree with you. I don't understand how that happened. But even with that said, I think, look, IU's played in the Big Ten. We played some really tough opponents. They got the most teams into the tournament at 9. And Wyoming played in the West Coast Conference, the Mountain West Conference. And they're going to be sitting there, just waiting.
Yeah, Indiana was in the last four in. They were the top team in the last four in. What does that mean? That means that with Richmond's win today, Indiana did drop into the first four. The final four in, the last four in rounded out with Notre Dame, Rutgers, and Wyoming. So Wyoming was the last team to make the field. And so, if you're thinking about, well, who are the at-larges Indiana could face, Wyoming was the last team to get in. They're more of a defensive-minded team. The one player on Wyoming you really need to know is Hunter Maldonado. He's a guard. He's 6'6", big player, able to do a lot of things. It's going to be a really good match between him and Xavier Johnson on Tuesday night. Times and TVs will be released a little bit later today, folks. We won't, I believe, still be on this podcast live. Make sure you stay tuned to Indiana HQ as we churn out all the details as soon as we hear them come available. Hunter Maldonado is an exceptional player for Wyoming. They're a good team, not a great team. Again, Indiana, I expect them to be favored by 1 or 2 points. St. Mary's is a tough draw. The computers really like St. Mary's, but of course, that's a team that plays in the West Coast Conference. Their win-loss record will be inflated because of the teams they play in that league. Overall, St. Mary's comes in as the 16th rated team in KenPom. And what's interesting about the Gales is they play at one of the slowest paces in the country. And so, Matt, as you think about that Thursday game, do you think Indiana would thrive in a game against a slower paced team like St. Mary's or against a faster paced one like what we saw with Iowa, for example?
I'd rather play against somebody that plays at a slower pace. I think like IU at times yesterday looked rushed and out of control, trying to play up to somebody's tempo. So I'd like to play a team that plays around the same tempo as us. So even if, let's say, the other team is dominating and using their tempo, it's not totally unfamiliar to the team. And so I'm fine with Wyoming, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair point. Wyoming has kind of trailed off as the year has gone on. They started as a really strong team, but really as the year has gone on, they started to slump off a little bit. They lost in the semifinals of their conference tournament against Boise State. Again, like I mentioned, those three other teams in the Mountain West really separated themselves from the Cowboys. Wyoming lost 68-61 to Boise State on Saturday. Again, it's kind of a big three with Wyoming. We talked about Maldonado, Graham Ike, as well as Drake Jeffries round out their top three. So, you can expect those guys to really carry the large workload for Wyoming. Those three players all average minutes in the 30s. No one else does for the Cowboys. So that's that, Matt. The entire field has been released. Indiana is in, and they play Wyoming on Tuesday in Dayton. So, folks, make sure you stay tuned to us at Indiana HQ at the Hoosier Sound. I anticipate that on this podcast, we'll see here. I expect we'll have a next episode on Wednesday after what happens in the first four, after we see how the Hoosiers play. And then we would preview that Thursday game against St. Mary's. Really interesting to see how it all plays out. I'm kind of scrolling through Twitter here, seeing any sort of live reactions.
Can we play on Tuesday?
Yes, because Indiana will play St. Mary's on a Thursday. Trace Jackson Davis apparently on his Instagram Live said that Indiana was disrespected. But overall, he said, we're in. That's all that matters. That's a quote from his Instagram Live as it was going on. I probably would have paid attention to that if I wasn't doing a podcast live. What other thoughts do you have here, man? I mean, the floor is pretty open here. A handful of teams missed out. Indiana did play their way in. I think it's pretty clear that Indiana needed to beat Illinois to get in. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I mean, now it looks like Indiana might have been. I think the roles of Wyoming and Indiana might have been reversed had IU not beaten Illinois. I think Indiana still would have been in, but I think we moved up. We moved up from the last team in to 6 spots up with the win against Illinois, but then 2 bid stealers bumped us back down. That's how I'm going to look at this. Because I'm assuming that had we beat Michigan, okay, we did enough. We did the one The one win, we thought that might get us in 50-50. The Illinois win got us in, but then it didn't get us enough. If we had beaten Iowa, we'd be a 10 seed, I think, or an 11 seed. Had moved up a little bit farther, but it is what it is.
That makes sense. And of course, this Iowa team clearly looks like one of the hottest teams in the country. They're playing really strong basketball. They are obviously a team that a lot of folks take seriously here. I love their draw as far as this field is concerned. Right now, the NCAA committee is speaking on CBS. I'm not going to be able to pick out a lot of the comments. His name's Tom Burnett, so I'm going to keep an eye out for any quotes that come through. Yeah, I see Forrest in the live chat. He says, wow, it sucks, but yeah, we'll take it. And remember, folks, first four teams have experienced a lot of success in this format. A lot of times what you see, you think about a team like St. Mary's, for example, because, we won't be able to preview this in a podcast format until before the game takes place. St. Mary's last game took place a long time ago. I believe it was back on March 3rd when St. Mary's last played. Let me get confirmation on that. Actually, St. Mary's played on Tuesday.
Yep.
That means St. Mary's is going to go 2 weeks in between games. No, that's not right. That's completely wrong. St. Mary's is going to go a week and 2 days. A week and 2 days in between games. So just think about that too. Indiana is going to play 4 full games in between St. Mary's lost in the WCC title game to Gonzaga and when the Hoosiers take on the Gales in the round of 64. So that's kind of interesting to think about, all these different little wrinkles. Of course, St. Mary's is a team that plays as slow as they play. It's going to be hard for Indiana to fall behind by too much in that format. So I'm excited to see how this all plays out. I'm looking forward to seeing Indiana, again, play freer basketball, less pressure on their shoulders. I think we saw, Matt, a completely different IU team over the last 72 hours.
Yeah.
They seem like once they beat Michigan, they played with freedom. They played at a higher level. And if they do that, I'm sure you believe they'll knock off Wyoming here in this first 4 game on Tuesday.
100%. I think they will. Now, I'm slightly concerned now looking at the bracket because IU does have to travel out west to play St. Mary's. So St. Mary's is going to have the attendance upper hand for that game just because I love, Hoosier fans love their team. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think Hoosier fans are going to be rushing to buy round of 64 tickets when they have to go to Dayton first. And then the team has to fly out West Coast. And so there's going to be jet lag. And they only have 2 days to rest up because for the Tuesday matchup, we play on Thursday and then we play on Saturday, correct? Yeah. So again, 3 games, 6 days after playing 3 games in 3 days. Guys are going to be tired by the end of next weekend. That's for sure.
They are, but when it's all said and done, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, look, you played your way into the field, right? I mean, I didn't think when we had our last podcast, Matt, on Thursday, that Indiana had to beat Illinois on Friday to get into the field. That's how I envisioned this all play out. Indiana, apparently, to make the NCAA tournament, had to beat Michigan and had to beat Illinois. And IU did that. So the Hoosiers can take a lot of pride in the way they played. I'm sure their loss to Iowa, which bumped them up in the computers by a spot or 2, helped the cause there. Of course, Indiana's game against Wyoming on Tuesday, by the way, will be a True TV broadcast. So that's where you can watch it. It'll be on True TV. They haven't released a time yet as far as that's concerned, but that's where I'm at right now, Matt. Overall, I'm looking forward to seeing the Hoosiers play this game. If you look into the details a little bit, Wyoming struggles to rebound the basketball. So that's an area where Indiana will have an advantage. Wyoming doesn't shoot the 3 ball all that well.
Nope.
So Indiana, can force that matchup into their hands.
Also,
overall, go ahead.
Graham, is it Ike?
Yes.
Ike? Yeah, and Jeremiah Odin and Hunter Molinado are going to be the big guys, really. There's Hunter Thompson as well. But again, Trey Davis is going to have the size advantage in this matchup, which we know how that goes when Trace has a size advantage in a matchup. So I like this matchup for Trace. We talked about Hunter Maldonado. He's a 23% three-point shooter on the season. So he's not a guy that's going to be drilling threes over us. That dude's going to be Drake Jeffries, who's a guy to look out for. But Graham, Akine, and Hunter Maldonado don't shoot threes. They're kind of more focused on getting inside. And so I think this matchup heavily favors Indiana. They are going to have to play terribly on offense. They're going to have to throw tons of turnovers for IU not have the advantage in this matchup.
By the way, along those lines, Wyoming doesn't force that many turnovers. They're not a team that really disrupts offenses too much. Overall this year, the Cowboys' high-profile games look like this. They did go to Washington this year and beat that Pac-12 team 77-72. This year, though, was a bad year for the Washington Huskies. So I would not consider that to be a high-quality win for Wyoming. They did win against Cal State Fullerton in a true road game. Fullerton is in the field this year as an auto bid out of that conference. Wyoming lost to Arizona, a 1 seed in this field, by 29 points. They got absolutely whooped by Arizona out in Tucson. And then Wyoming also followed that up with a 3-point loss against Stanford. And that was a neutral site game. And Stanford is a very middle of the road Pac-12 team. I don't even think they'll be announced the NIT field. So, Wyoming, not too impressive in their non-conference slate. They did lose a true road game at Boise State. They followed that up with a home win over Colorado State in conference play and a home win over Boise State in conference play. Wyoming did have a couple of ugly losses down the stretch. They lost at New Mexico by 9. New Mexico did not make the field. And then they lost at UNLV by 7 earlier this month. Of course, they lost at Boise State by 7 points here in the Mountain West semis. So all in all, I expect Indiana to be favored pretty comfortably in this game. Again, I would expect a few points, and I would expect Indiana to just play with that chip on their shoulder after clearly, as Trace Jackson Davis made it seem, a disrespected slant after Indiana gets into the field as a 12, playing Wyoming on Tuesday in the first 4. Matt, as we wind down here on the Selection Sunday night, any final thoughts as Indiana makes the field? Wyoming on Tuesday, St. Mary's on Thursday, potentially UCLA on Saturday.
Give it to me. I mean, as you've seen, the guys are on social media saying, did you not see what we did this weekend? Did you not see what we did? In a tournament setting? Did you not see how far we progressed? What we did and pushed the eventual champions of the tournament to have to hit a half-court, one-legged buzzer beater against us, right? So I like our chances, especially if we beat Wyoming. We'll talk about, are we going to do a podcast after the Wyoming game on Tuesday? Did we talk about that yet?
Yeah, we're going to either do it on Tuesday night after the game or Wednesday in between the two games.
Okay, so we'll cover St. Mary's, but again, St. Mary's, I also think very beatable team for IU. And all of a sudden, you're looking at a possible round of 32 matchup against UCLA, and then anybody knows what can happen. That would be a fantastic matchup, a classic IU or a classic March Madness clash between two of the blue buds of college basketball. And that's what this program needs to get back on track. So we are 2 wins away from a game to finally say, hey, hi, we're here again. Hi, college basketball. We're back. We're not back yet. Nobody put out the t-shirts yet. I don't want to see anybody on Kirkwood lining up to buy those yet. But hey,
apparently
IU's in a good position to be able to say that to the college basketball world now.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently Mike Woodson said injury-wise, not sure about Jordan Geronimo's availability for Tuesday. He did say Trey Galloway was going to be fine. Jack in the live chat says, unbelievable, got screwed last 4 in. Yeah, it's true. And look, maybe Indiana takes this as motivation, inspiration. That's what we've seen from a lot of first 4 teams over the last few years, especially from power conferences.
Yeah.
We saw UCLA do it last year. We saw Syracuse do it a few years ago, making their way into the Sweet 16. I think the combination of that chip on your shoulder plus games in quick succession, you don't have that much time to think. You just play. And you saw Indiana benefit from that over the course of the last weekend. and they're just going to keep these games going. There's no real reason for Indiana at this point to sit on their hands, sit back and just listen to the grumblings and the mumblings and the rumors and the conversation, discussion. No, just go out there and play, and let's see Indiana play on Tuesday. I'm looking forward to them beating Wyoming and beating St. Mary's. That's what I'm hoping to see. Let's see if it all plays out when it's all said and done. But sure, that about wraps it up here for our 245th episode of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate the support. Thank you to everyone in the live chat. We really appreciate your conversation and contribution. Remember, folks, in order to hear this podcast and other episodes we've done, follow us on Indiana HQ and at the Hoosier Sound on social media, as well as find us wherever you listen to podcasts at the Hoosier Sound. Leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. That's how we become bigger and better here. We're going to be there for you from now until the end of the season for the men's and the women's team. Can't wait to hear where the IU women's team gets selected here in about an hour on the women's side. So, folks, that about wraps it up. And Hoosier Nation, we will see you next time on Hoosier Sound.